Hello, my name is Allison Scrippa. I'm Reference and Instruction Librarian at Carson-Newman University, and I'm going to talk to you about resources for mental health counseling. First, some basic rules of research you should keep in mind before you just start doing any research. First of all, it does take some time, so you shouldn't expect that you're going to find exactly what you need right away. You're going to want to think about what you're looking for, develop some keywords, think about other terms that researchers might use for the same thing, and just allow yourself some time to do that. Secondly, searching is iterative. That means your first search, again, might not find exactly what you need, but you're probably going to learn something in that search, maybe another term. You can apply that in your second search and get better results, and so on and so forth. Number 3, you should always check multiple databases. In some cases, that's because your subject might overlap different discipline areas. For instance, if you're doing school counseling, you'd want to check PsycInfo as well as the education databases. In other cases, it's just because different databases, even in the same subject, index different things. So they might have some overlap, but you're also going to find unique things in each database. So if you're trying to do a really exhaustive literature search, you're going to want to look in more than one place. Number 4, always check the references of helpful papers. So if you've got a paper, it's really helpful to you, it says exactly what you need it to say, it really supports your argument, look at its references, because if it was important enough to that author to cite, it's probably going to be important to you too. On the flip side, you should look for the citations of that paper, and that's anybody who's cited that paper since it was written. That's also very helpful, because same logic, if they've cited that paper, they're probably arguing something similar to what you are, and they might be able to help you too. Finally, don't stress out. If you've done more than about 30 minutes of searching, you just haven't found a thing that you can use, please contact the librarians. This research that you're doing is very important, both to the world at large and personally to you as a scholar, but it's not worth your mental health. So I'll tell you how to contact us. Please do whenever you feel like you need to. Off-campus access. This is really important because your library username and password are a little different than your other Carson-Newman username and password. For library resources, your username is going to be just your last name, and your password is going to be the letter CN and then your student ID number. So you can see an example there. You should have been given a student ID number in some of your acceptance materials, so look there if you're not 100% sure what it might be. And the other thing to be aware of is when you sign in, it's on a page that says Appalachian College Association. That is our consortium through which we get most of our databases for better prices than if we were trying to do it by ourselves. So don't be freaked out that you're not on a Carson-Newman page. You'll go into the database and you'll see Carson-Newman there. So some resources from the library. We have very specialized databases that are going to be really helpful to you. Lots of people are familiar with Google Scholar, and it has its strengths, one of which I'll talk about later, but it's not specialized. It doesn't really help you. PsycInfo will let you search for things like tests and measures. So if you want papers written with the Beck Depression Scale, you can find those. It lets you do ages of patients, and there's lots of other ways you can use that database and other databases to find really focused information your first time around, rather than just hoping that your keywords are going to find the right thing. We also have a discovery search engine. It's on a library homepage and the main page of all of the LibGuides. And what the discovery search engine does is search multiple databases at the same time. So it's nice because if you have an area, again, that overlaps disciplines like school counseling, it will find all of that. Its downside is that it is a humongous database, and if you're not very careful with what you put into it, you just end up with more results than you could possibly want. It does include books and ebooks, which is really nice. Interlibrary loan, if you found an article that we do not have access to and you'd like to read it, we have a way that you can request it. and we will get usually a PDF copy for you. It does take several days, so you want to allow yourself plenty of time when you do your research. Finally, on the home page of the library, there's a link that says Get Help Now. And that is a link to contact the librarians, all of us, not just me. And there's a texting service, so you can text a question, you can email a question. There's a chat service that's usually during weekdays. There is a frequently asked question page if you're certain that your question is not the first time that has been asked. So that's really, really helpful. So your gateway to resources is the Mental Health Counseling LibGuide. And a LibGuide is essentially, it's a website that's a collection of resources tailored to a given subject. The mental health counseling one is going to have all the databases, books, websites that are really specialized to mental health counseling. In other words, it's got totally different databases on it than, say, the biology LibGuide. So it's very, very helpful. The URL is right there to take you directly to it. If you're coming from the library homepage, you're going to click Library Resources, and then LibGuides, and then Mental Health Counseling. Some databases you should know about. Alexander Street Counseling is actually a video database. It features videos of actual psychotherapy sessions, so you can see techniques in action. Counseling and Psychotherapy Transcripts, as its name kind of denotes, it's transcripts of psychotherapy sessions. So kind of the same thing. You can kind of see techniques in action, which is really, really helpful. Psych Info, I've already mentioned, I believe, and it has over 3 million different citations in it. It's pretty much the most complete psychology and related fields database that there is. It really probably should be your first stop when you're looking for information. Psychology and Behavioral Science Collection is another database that we have. Some overlap with Psych Info, but again, it's going to have kind of unique material as well. Education Source is a big education database that's very helpful if you're doing something that touches like school counseling or children. CNOL is actually a nursing database, but if you are looking for information on pharmaceuticals, that can be a really good place to look. And same thing with PubMed. PubMed is a database of medical topics from the National Library of Medicine. Lots of pharmaceutical kind of stuff, so if you're exploring pharmaceuticals in conjunction with counseling, those can be really good places to look. And one more. I promised you I was going to mention its good points. Google Scholar is great when you need to find who has cited a paper. So let's say you found a paper that was written in 2011. You'd like to see who cited it. You just plug it into Google Scholar, and in a little subscript it will say cited by, and then it will have a number. If you click that, it will show you everybody who's cited that paper since it was written. Very, very, very helpful information, and something that Google Scholar does really, really well. So just a brief overview of types of articles you can expect to see when you're out there searching. First of all, sometimes you do see popular items. This is more likely to happen in the Discovery search engine. You don't really see it in Psych Info and most of the other databases. But popular, we kind of think of like Psychology Today. It's big, it's flashy, it's got lots of advertisement, lots of big pictures, catchy titles. Articles are usually pretty short. There's no references. You don't know who wrote it. But it can be a little different. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. Pay special attention to like who wrote an article and see if they have a background in the subject that they're actually talking about. That's usually a really good way to tell. There's also trade articles, and these kind of fall under popular. Basically, they're written for people in a field. So the American Psychological Association has a publication called Psych News. And what it is, it's essentially like news for professionals in psychology. So it might have little things like, a study showed that people who did this counseling technique for stress reported a 90% improvement in how they handled stress. And I've seen quite a bit of people actually citing those articles in their research because it's got like the results of a research article, but you do not want to do that. You want to find the real research. And these articles will give you a heads up. They'll say, study author is, give you a name. They'll tell you what school it was affiliated with or what hospital. They'll tell you what journal it's going to be published in and when. And using that information, you can track down the real article and use that. What you always want to use is scholarly sources. Scholarly, kind of the opposite of popular. Not usually very flashy, kind of dull titles. The authors will have their credentials listed and tell you who they're affiliated with, what their degrees are. Usually no advertisements unless it's for something very related, like a scientific publication might have ads for test tubes. But that's the stuff that you want to use. Now, specifically within Scholar, we talk about peer-reviewed sources. A lot of times that's used interchangeably with scholarly sources. Peer review is a specific type of a scholarly source. It's usually journal articles, and what it is people send in their articles with their research to a journal. That journal sends it back out to a panel of reviewers who are expert in that same field. Those experts review it, and they kind of give it a stamp of approval. They can say, yes, publish that, no, don't publish that, or what usually happens is, yes, publish that, but make all of these changes. And what those peers are looking for is your methodology sound? Do your data support your conclusions? All that kind of stuff, not just your grammar. And so that's really the mark of quality in scholarly literature. There's a specific type of scholarly article called a review article, which is pretty much pure gold. And a review article, basically, it takes a bunch of other papers and it sums them up for you and gives you an answer. So, for instance, a paper might pick 9 articles that are all about depression and counseling in conjunction with the drug Zoloft. And it kind of looks at all of these. The populations are probably different. The dosages are probably different. How long the patients were on the drug or how long they were in counseling all differs. But they take all that into account and kind of say, yes, it works really well, or no, it doesn't. So that's really, really nice. It gives you an answer, and also it gives you a bunch of literature that you can look at. A meta-analysis is a type of review article, and it's kind of the same thing. It takes a bunch of articles, but instead of just kind of giving you a qualitative answer, it crunches all the numbers together and gives you kind of a numerical answer of, does this work? Does it not? So those are things really worth looking for. Now, citations. What is the point of citations other than to torture you and make you look at all the minutiae that doesn't seem very important? Well, citations really allow other researchers to locate works you've used in your research and read sources for themselves to inform their own research. I mentioned earlier that, it's a good way to do research is to find a paper and then look at its references, look at its citations. That's what everybody does. If there weren't any citations there, you wouldn't have that information. Citations also kind of give you some credibility because they show that you know what you're talking about, and they also show that you give credit where credit is due. So you do want to pay attention to citations and make sure that you get them right. The major parts of citations: who, when, what, where. Who wrote it, when it was written, what, and that's the title of the work that you're referencing. So the article title, or maybe a book chapter title, and then the where. The where is possibly the most important part, because if you just had the where information, you wouldn't need all the other, but really you want all of it. So where was it published? What was the title of the journal it was published in, or the book? And then detailed locating information like a volume, issue, page numbers for a journal, a DOI or a URL if it's online, and publisher name and location for books. Okay, here's a couple of examples of APA in-text citations. This is the citations that happen in the text of your document. So direct quote, you could say according to author name Jones, then you put the year, then you actually put the quotes in, and then you have the page number and a period. For a paraphrase, it's a little bit different. You paraphrase the statement that you're wanting to do, and then you put in parentheses the author name, the date, and the page. For the bibliography citations at the end, these are three different kinds. There's a journal article, a book, and like a website. And they're different, but they're also really, really similar. If you notice, the first thing is the author in all of them. The second thing is the title of the work. Then comes the locating information. So for a journal article, that's the title of periodical, etc., etc. For a book, that's the location and the publisher. And for a website, that's the URL. Really common issues we see with APA citations. Number one is definitely proofreading. You should always double check your citations. Many of the databases have magical little buttons that say cite, and if you click them, it will show you an APA citation. Many of them are wrong, or they just have typos, so you don't want to take those as gospel. You want to double check them. It's usually it's kind of a formula kind of thing. It knows where to place all the pieces, but if somebody capitalized something in the wrong place, then the citation's wrong. Also be aware that the online citation generators like NightCite, I think, is one of them, or Son of Citation Machine, again, just as good as the information that goes into them. So if something's typoed, it's going to be incorrect. The other common issue that confuses a lot of people is when there's no obvious author. In that case, look and see who's responsible for the work. For example, if you have a report from the National Institute of Mental Health, then the organization, National Institute of Mental Health, is usually considered the author. We can help you with that if you have any questions. So some citation helps. First of all, the APA publication manual. If you don't have it, you should purchase it. It's more complete than any website out there. That said, there is a link to a website in the LibGuide called the Purdue Online Writing Lab that's very nice. It has many examples of different APA citations, kind of guides you through it. However, it doesn't have everything, so I would say purchase the book if you can. And finally, just a few resources that can make your life a lot easier. There's a few online programs that can really help you. EndNoteWeb, Mendeley, and Zotero are all what are called citation management programs. They essentially are add-ins to a browser. Usually Firefox works pretty well with them. And as you're researching, you have a paper pulled up that you want to save. You click a magical button and it saves it for you. It saves all that citation information for you. And then it keeps it online in a cloud library. Then the next best part is that there is an add-in in Word, so that when you start typing up your paper, you click another magic little button and you can put an in-text citation in your document. You also can click another magical button for a bibliography. Now, same caution applies. You do still need to double check all that information, but typically they're all right. Just double check them. Evernote is a little different. Evernote is a note-taking app. You might be familiar with it. It works on multiple devices, so it will go from your computer to your phone to your tablet, and you can save PDFs in it. You can write outlines, say for a paper that you're working on during lunch. You could get it at home, so it makes things more portable and easy. And these are all worthwhile time investments if you're going to be writing a lot. All of the programs here are free. They do have like kind of pro level, so if you do pay, you get like lots more storage, but usually you can get by without it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My email address is ascrippa@cn.edu, and my phone number is 865-471-3338. Also, please remember that Get Help Now link toward the beginning of the presentation. From the library homepage, click Get Help Now, and that will connect you with the librarians as well. Thank you so much. We're so pleased to have you as Carson-Newman students. We may not get to see you since you're working at a distance, but we're here for you if you need help, and we hope you enjoy your time with Carson-Newman. Goodbye.